This is the top 30 strongest characters in the Skypiea saga. I based their power levels on the CP9 power scaling, so 10 is a normal marine soldier and it goes from there, although I didn't really follow the exact numbers that they gave. These are also consistent with my previous video. So starting with number 30, McKinley. He's the leader of the police force in Skypiea and he can take some hits. And by taking some hits I mean he survived being attacked by Luffy, so that's something. And to be honest, I thought he was the worst part of Skypiea. 28th and 29th place are shared by Hotori and Kotori. These two brothers are lieutenants of the divine soldiers following God, so they're relatively fast and relatively strong and they have like the good dials on their hands. But in the end they were beaten by Nami effortlessly. She didn't even use the lightning, and Gunfall one-shot them as well, so Hotori and Kotori are here, but I gave them quite a generous power level. 27, Lucky. So she's pretty fast and she has a gun. She is apparently one of Sandia's best warriors because she was with them and fighting with them. And to be honest, her relationships are more interesting than her herself. She doesn't have much character, she just wants to help Aisa. She also goes to tell Viper that Enel is a Logia user, even though Viper already basically knew that and he had the Sea Stone anyway. So yeah. Oh yeah, also I put them into tiers. So they're tier 5. So they are Baroque Works agents, you know, like Frontier agents. And they are superhumans, they would beat Mike Tyson in a fight. Now I'm starting with the tier 4s. So these are Baroque Works officer agents and rookie pirates. Yeah, they are what you would see in at the start of One Piece, you know, in Ace Blue, like the fighters there. Like think of Kabachi, think of Mochi. Guys like those. 26, Gembo. So he's the guy with the Jeff hat that fights for the Sandians, and he was defeated by Yama by being crushed by his 600 BMI. So unfortunately Gembo was not big enough, he couldn't stand up to Yama, but in terms of his powers he had a cannon. Not much else to be said about him, but he did have a cannon, so good on him. And I really liked his design. Nothing else really to say about him though. He's a big tough guy who doesn't have time for weak people, even though he's not exactly strong either. 25, Usopp. So he stayed conscious from 2 hits from Satori's impact dial and got up from Enel's lightning and managed to actually dodge a lightning bolt and tried to do some flips in the air, so he's gotten more athletic for sure. Also we see at the start of the arc, when he takes off his shirt, he actually has a 6-pack already, so Usopp is kinda built different, okay? 24, Nami. Okay, so I put Nami next to Usopp, but she is quite a bit stronger in terms of the power level, like 50% higher power level almost. Her climate act has very high offensive power, but she's still a glass cannon, so she can't really take hits and she's not that fast and that agile, but she is kind of fast, kind of agile, kind of strong. She's getting stronger as well. To be honest, I thought in the anime, Nami was a bit annoying in Skypiea because she was complaining a lot and not doing anything and putting the other characters into positions where they needed to save her. But she did have some cool moments, like when she stood up to Enel. 23 and 22 are another tie between Masira and Shoujo. Shoujo is the monkey-looking guy who's not actually a mink, he's just a normal human who uses the sonar waves to attack people. And Masira does not have any sonar waves, he just punches people. I'm pretty sure Shoujo is probably stronger, but I just put them at the same level because the difference isn't that big. Both of them got kind of foderized by Bellamy and even Sarkis, but that was kind of cheating anyway. So I put Sarkis above them, maybe he is actually weaker. So 21, Sarkis. He has a big knife and he spins it around like killer, but instead of being cool, he kind of just sucks. He's an overconfident blowhard who's following Bellamy thinking he's like the next pirate king or something. Even though, like, you know, it's Bellamy, he's not exactly the most exciting person ever. But yeah, Sarkis is kind of decent at fighting almost, so here he is. Compared to the East Blue power levels, I remember this is about equal to like Kurobi. I gave Kurobi like 650 or 660. So Sarkis is basically equal to that. 20, Gedatsu. If he had a higher IQ, he would definitely be higher. I think next to the other priests, I think I would almost double his power level. But because his IQ is holding him back, he's here. He has observation haki and has the jet dial to accelerate very fast. He also has like rocket boots he can use to fly. But of course he was defeated by Chopper by him having one of his shoes removed and getting hit once. So it's not exactly the best look for him. And in general it looks like these priests really skipped out on their durability. Like they have observation haki, but they go down from one attack. 19, I placed Chopper, so he defeated Gedatsu, so of course he's above him. His transformations give him a lot of flexibility and allow him to use like his brain more, his legs more, become like super tanky, become strong, jump high, run really fast, etc. During this arc, Chopper starts considering himself as a real pirate after defeating Gedatsu, and he becomes a bit less scared because, you know, he feels like he's stronger. Also, during this arc, he actually fought 3 out of the 4 priests. He encountered Sura at the shrine, defeated Gedatsu, and then got defeated by Ohm. 18. Cricket. Cricket was able to fight Sanji even though he was weakened at the moment, so he's definitely quite formidable. He's not like extremely strong, but Cricket is still a guy you should respect. His backstory was relatively touching, but for some reason I didn't really care about him. Like maybe I just need to watch the arc again or something, but like it's cool. He's a cool character, but I don't really care about him. I don't have any connection. Maybe it's his personality. He doesn't have the deepest of personalities. He just wants to find the gold to prove that, you know, the gold existed. 17. Braham. So Braham is the gun guy who fought Zoro at the start and was defeated by Zoro's first slashing attack. He is also physically capable, and he has like guns with 2 barrels who can, you know, so he can shoot twice as many bullets as normal, and they also flash with a bright light, so it's harder to avoid the bullets. He was able to also kick Zoro and like avoid his strikes a bit. To be honest, he's one of my random favorite characters in the story. I kind of like his character design a lot, and his fighting style was very unique and cool. So yeah, he's a positive character for me. Like, I kind of wished we saw more of him, but he was just a guy who fought Zoro and then got up and had a party. So, 16. Kamakiri. He's probably like Viper's right-hand man, although it's not officially stated, I think. He got to fight Enel first. You know, we got to see his low chill powers in action thanks to him, and then he got one shot. But in the end, his character design is pretty cool. He uses a spear and like a blade of burning gas, just like Caesar does. So his equipment is pretty cool. Yeah, he unfortunately didn't end up doing much, but he had potential. I wanted to see more of him as well. Both of these Sandians here kind of got shafted, like Genpo too, but I don't care about him at all, so I'm fine that he got one shot. And now next is the guy who one-shot him, 15, Yama. He's the commander of the Divine Soldiers, and he's actually like extremely fast and strong, and he was able to do like flips over and over, although I guess it's a lot easier when you can just spin around, because he also had a BMI of about 7,000. He was fatter than Big Mom, I think. You know, Big Mom is kind of fat, you know, like very fat. But Yama, like, his stomach goes like this. Like, starts from his chin and goes up. So, this guy definitely needed to go on a diet. I think if he went on a diet, he could have become the next god, because even though he weighed about 5 tons, he was able to move like that. Just imagine if he wasn't holding himself back. He's like Kenpachi, you know. He's stopping himself from defeating his opponents too easily. Okay, well, to be honest, I don't like him at all. Well, he gave a cool fight for Robin, so it's okay. 14th, Bellamy. He only has 2 tricks. He can bounce around and then punch people with his string powers, but thanks to that, he is very strong and fast. But he's, you know, of course he has two skills, so his skills are themselves a bit bad, and his durability kind of sucks because he got one shot by Luffy. And in terms of how I think of him, I think he served his purpose wonderfully, because he was the foil to Luffy. He believed that treasures and dreams just are useless, and he also was used to showcase how much Luffy has grown as well, because this hotshot pirate with a bounty of 55 million, 2.5 times Arlong's, and then he just gets one shot. So yeah, it puts into perspective into like how strong Luffy has gotten. Okay, next is tier 3, and these are Enel's priests. Pretty self-explanatory. I put this tier for this list only. It's not going to be my other lists. And if you noticed Kadatsu is not there, it's because I think he doesn't really deserve to be that high. 13, Satori. This is a guy I definitely didn't think was funny. I really wanted him off the screen every second he was there. I wasn't even satisfied when he was defeated, because he was just one-shot by Sanji. He used mantra to avoid their attacks for way too long. He was throwing Luffy, Sanji and Usopp around, so he's pretty strong, but he wasn't able to really hurt them, and he just was doing damage with the impact dial, and physically he wasn't really able to keep up with even Usopp, I think. His ordeal of balls was kind of stupid as well. I'm happy he has never shown up again, and he probably died. 12, Sura. So Sura relied less on his mantra and was more lethal in hand-to-hand combat thanks to his javelin, and he was able to fight Gunfall equally in the skies. He actually ended up defeating him, but of course that was just because of his strings that he put around, before he went there. I think he looks really cool. His handlebar mustache is very nice. He reminds me of a pilot, which is very fitting because he's like a skyrider. He's riding a jet. And, it shoots out fire, but literally it's not like bullets, it's just a fire, and it's a bird. I think he's my favorite priest. 11, Gunfall. Gunfall would have defeated Sura if he didn't get trapped in the strings, and he fights in the same way, but he has an impact dial on his gauntlet. His story as the previous card, it made me interested. But he wasn't that exciting. There have been some better characters in the story, but I'm okay with him. I do like him. He does have some interesting character traits, but to be honest, my favorite two parts about him is like the fighting style and his word. Pierre turning into a Pegasus was pretty fucking funny to me, because with the spots and all. It does not look exactly the most majestic, but he pretends that it's majestic, and that's all that really matters. Okay, 10th place, Robin. She heavily relies on her devil fruit, but she's mastered it, and it allows her to augment her strength, speed and agility quite a bit by using many hands to lift someone up, or using hands to jump around, or jumping onto the hands to avoid strikes, or pushing herself with the hands. So she has many things she can do with them, but she relies on the devil fruit, so I can't put her too high, and hand-to-hand she's not anything. She's basically just a bit stronger than Nami, I think. So this is Robin's first arc as a Straw Hat, and here he does some archaeology and isn't very invested in the main fights until Enel comes to her. She did some very interesting discoveries though, and to be honest, I wish we saw more of the things Robin did in the upcoming arcs too, because seeing her be an archaeologist was extremely nice. Oh, also, I almost forgot, but she had a very good discussion with Enel. 9th is Ohm. Ohm uses Observation Haki and his Iron Whip to attack from behind objects to take his opponents out unawares. And his Iron Whip, even though it's soft when he wants it to be, that sounds a bit sexual, it still is hard as iron, which is also a bit sexual. But Zoro was able to cut through it with one of his ranged attacks, because he learned how to do the ranged attacks while cutting iron, while he's fighting, I think. And yeah, as Ohm was talking the big talk to Zoro, and then finally when Zoro lands one hit on him, he's on the ground and he doesn't move at all anymore. So Ohm was a bit disappointing, but he is definitely the strongest of the priests. He was able to maintain his mantra, so he didn't lose his composition like the other priests did, so he's definitely better. Now we are getting into the tier 2. These would be supernova tiers. So supernova tier characters, the ones who would have 100 million at the body if they were their own captains. So number 8 is Sanji. After East Blue and Alabasta, Sanji got a lot stronger, faster and agile, and he also increased his skills a lot, so his power level almost doubled from the end of East Blue, I think. He had some amazing scenes this arc, with him like fucking over the NL and then like dropping the one-liner and saving Usopp and Nami. And then with like the comedy stuff at the start of the arc with Usopp and Luffy was also really good. Although he didn't really get to fight his own opponent this arc. 7th I put Zoro. I think he was quite a bit stronger than Sanji this arc. But I did decide to put Sanji above Ohm because Ohm was so easily defeated by Zoro. Here he develops a ranged attack and he defeats 2 opponents during this arc, so he got a lot of shine in Skypiea compared to the other Straw Hats who some of them had no fights. Although both of his fights were kind of short and not very exciting. I liked the Braham fight, but the Ohm fight was probably one of Zoro's worst fights. He fought NL as well. That was really good as well. Okay. So in 6th place I placed Viper. During this arc I think he was stronger than Zoro because I mean he did better in the fights. He was able to hurt Nola while Zoro couldn't. He was able to attack NL and stop his heart with the reject style. With the reject style, he was also able to one-shot one of the priests, and he was fighting with Luffy equally, like they were trading blows and both bleeding, so he was pretty much equal to Luffy this arc, and the only reason he couldn't defeat Enel is because he was fucked by the Logia, and Luffy could because he was a counter. A character like him is really rare in One Piece, like he's a non-straw hat, like non-main character, he's not the main villain, and he doesn't stick around, but he's still as strong as the main characters, and he hangs around with them and actually beats some of them, like in terms of how useful he is. So he's a very nice character, I love him, although I think he definitely needed to calm down a bit, because there was no reason for him to fight the Straw Hats outside of him, like wanting to fight them, because like what does he care if they lose some gold? He doesn't even care about the gold. I mean, he ended up giving it to the Straw Hats anyway. 5th place is Luffy. He's a solid 3000, I put him here. So yeah, he's also gotten like 2.5 times stronger since East Blue, just like Zoro actually. And yeah, he beat Enel only because he completely countered him, but Enel was still like 10 times stronger than him. And yeah, Enel fought with his electricity and with his blunt weapon and his hands and feet. All of which are blunt attacks and electric attacks, which both are very ineffective against Luffy, if not completely ineffective. Also, I thought Luffy was a bit stupid this arc because, you know, he was stuck in the snake, not realizing that, you know, it's a snake. And he was kind of just there. He didn't have much shine, but his fight against Enel was extremely epic, and yeah, he really felt like the hero, the main character at this arc. 4th place, this would go to Nola, the snake. I did think it was stronger than Luffy because Luffy wasn't even able to kill it by attacking from inside its stomach at full power for like 10 minutes. So I think Nola would beat Luffy in a fight, but yeah, Enel took it out with one attack, but that's because Nola wasn't immune to the electricity. And Enel used like, I think his best attack on him, on the snake, so yeah. I really love him. It's really nice to see an actual monster in One Piece because usually they are a bit more comical, and Nola was actually like very intimidating, even though it wasn't like taken that seriously. Now rank 2, number 2 and number 3 are Mont Blanc Noland and Calgara. So Noland was able to slice the head of the like previous Nola that the Sandians were worshipping, so he has to be stronger than Nola at least, and Calgara was his equal, so I put them as the same, but I think Nolan was probably stronger. And yeah, their flashback is amazing, But I think Nolan was the more exciting character. Calgara was a bit of a idiot. So I think he really needed to calm down as well. He had the same problem as Viper. He really needed to just relax a bit and think about things logically. So yeah, I loved Blanc Nolan's though, and his connection to, or well, possible connection to Usopp is still one of my favorite things in One Piece. Number 1, Enel. With his devil fruit, he's like an insane amount stronger than anyone else. But without his devil fruit, I think he still would be stronger than Viper and Zoro. Viper could definitely defeat him with the rejected dial, but Enel wouldn't be so overconfident, so he would actually try to dodge. And he was fighting against Zoro. Of course, he was using his abilities, but he was also like using his physical strength and speed to fight against Zoro, grab his weapons, and then execute him. So with his stuff, he could definitely fight against Zoro pretty evenly, and I think he could probably even beat him. So Eminem went a bit crazy, rap god mode. So he's definitely insane and high on his own hype. He actually thinks he's a god. He can't like process the fact that Luffy can even hit him. Like, I wonder how he would feel when he encountered a Haki user. Like, he would have a complete mental breakdown. And yeah, I loved the line when Luffy said, like, in the Blue Seas there are tons of people stronger than you, because in most manga they would actually treat Enel like he is God. They would say, yeah, he's the strongest. And then next arc, a random guy shows up who's twice as strong. You know, so I love that One Piece didn't go like that, and they acknowledged, yeah, he's not the strongest. He's very strong, but you know, in the Blue Seas there are many people who could beat him, like Mihawk, the Yonko, the Admirals, etc. Because Enel's Devil Fruit is the only one we see in combat this arc, and one of the only two that are introduced. It feels really special. But actually in Skypiea, most of the characters actually know about Devil Fruits. So even though they look tribal, they aren't actually that isolated. They do have knowledge. And yeah, the dials also were very interesting for this arc, as their like power system basically for this arc. And I wish they were used more often after this. I mean, Usopp uses them and Nami uses them for the improved climate act, but that's about it. So yeah, this is my thoughts on all of the characters in Skypiea. I hope this video was acceptable. I'm going to be editing it while I travel to Huancayo and Ayacucho, and then Cusco, and then to Ica. So I'm like going around Peru right now. So that's going to be really fun, and so please guys like and subscribe.